Good evening or morning, depending on where you are in the world, to you folks. Welcome to Wastrel Wednesday. Co host Kyle will be joining us momentarily. And for those of you who have been not paying attention to the live streams, shame on you. But we are going to be playing more of Kyle's combat and adventure game, Conflict, which is currently in the testing phase. If you remember, the last time we dealt with conflict, we rolled up a character and we had a good old fashioned brawl in a diner, just like all great 80s action movies that don't have Arnold Schwarzenegger or Bruce Willis in them should go. You know, a dust up with the locals and the tough as nails, heart of gold military veteran. So that's what we did last. And today we are going to get into something I am told that is a bit more extensive. And well, Kyle, do you want to play some AD&D or do you want to play, do you want to do conflict? We'll see how things go. And when he suggested the conflict scenario, I was like, conflict. We're doing conflict because it sounds too cool. And we're going to see how cool that is. But I've run my mouth enough for at least this 30 seconds. Welcome to our lovely and talented co-host, Mr. Kyle Schuant. How are you, Kyle?
Hi there. All good. All good. All
Wonderful.
good and ready to go.
That's great. That is awesome. So we've got some folks here in our studio audience tonight, our broadcast audience, as the case may be. Um, Now, if you're here from the usual audience that we have over on Facebook and you're wondering why I'm not also transmitting this over Facebook, I've been given a temporary vacation from Facebook that I may decide to make permanent. I'm still on the bubble about that, but suffice to say that at least for the moment, we'll just be on YouTube for right now. But it's all good, man. It's all good. So, uh, just because I don't know if we're going to hit this at the end, if we're going to have time or whatever, I will tell you folks tomorrow, Thursday, is painting clinic. I will be continuing on with the Grenadier Hirelings miniatures. And lots of hirelings are in your wheelhouse, Kyle. That should thrill you to no end. So I'll be painting up some more of those. And then Friday, I am 90% sure we're going to have a guest on. We're going to have Tracy Lesh. He's going to be here on Friday. And we're going to talk to Tracy and see what all's been going on with him. So without further ado, Kyle, bring us up to speed, my friend. How are you?
Just muting it for a minute while I'm making a coffee. That's how I am. You
That's
keep talking for 30 seconds.
30 okay, 30 more seconds. So Monday I'm going to try something. I'm going to see if it's going to work since people seem to enjoy watching me play things. Monday I'm going to play the Mattel Dungeons and Dragons computer labyrinth game on camera. We'll just get the camera boom over and I'll play that. And you guys can participate. You can help out on the stream and give directions as to where we take our warrior through the electronic dungeon. That'll be a lot of fun. Um, I gotta say, guys, I am really overwhelmed at how fast the channel is growing. And I will say, Kyle, it's in no small part because of you. I mean, our most viewed streams are times when I'm talking about conflict. So, thank you. Um, but I have made a decision, and I don't know if you caught this, Kyle, but when we hit 1,000 viewers, 1,000 subs rather, I'm going to do a mini con. I'm going to do a mini games day. Your speech last week when we just kind of rambled on, not last week, but last time you were on, we just kind of rambled on about just getting together and doing a games day. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do a virtual games day for our subscribers. I'm just going to pick a day, probably a local weekend day, and I'm going to run games. I'll run war games, RPGs, old, new, just whatever suits. We'll do a mini con to celebrate 1K subscribers on the YouTube channel. So if you want to see that, if you want to participate in that, get all your friends over here and tell them to click that subscribe and click that bell and click the thumbs up if you like the videos. You know what to do if you don't like the videos. All right, Kyle, is our coffee ready?
It is. It is.
Right. Yes.
It's cold here in the garage, so
you gotta throw.
It's about 10.
Todd in that, man. You gotta dump a little brandy in there. Get the blood flow. Little vasodilation.
It's 9:30 in the morning. I'm too young to be drinking this early in the morning. If I were like a crazed old mountain man up in the hills, I reckon I'd do that. I reckon I'd have the old rum toddy and the rest.
Yes.
But not so much. I'm only 49.
Oh, I remember 49. Those were the days.
My son has told me that when I hit 50 in a month or so, then I am officially old.
Okay. Officially old.
That's what is old according to my son.
Well, he probably thinks it's time for a guy like me to carousel.
I don't know.
So,
I don't know. It's pig logic.
Well, your son is a smart lad. Yeah, seriously.
Sometimes
I'm sorry. What? Oh, we've lost.
I said sometimes by accident. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes by accident. Yeah, you're gonna have to regale us with some of his gaming stories, just if for no other reason, so we have video evidence of it, and you can embarrass the hell out of him when he brings his girlfriend over the first time. Let me show you this video.
Oh, well, as you know, I'm already doing that. My son says many ridiculous things, and I've been collecting them over the years into a little document called Hey Papa, Wisdom of Zach. And I plan to get it all printed out very nicely and pass it around at his 18th birthday. So
that's great. That is fantastic.
At the moment, he's on board with this. He's on board with this because he's just starting to get to that age where they become self-conscious. You know, he's not quite at that age yet, but he's just starting to become to that age. He doesn't realize just how embarrassed he's going to be when he's 18. But I do.
You do. Bring the thunder. Hey, is everybody read this? Oh, God, Dad, no.
Exactly. But, he already understands some things about gaming. He says things like, there's always time to loot. So he understands some important things already.
Good for him. A friend of mine used to bitch about me playing, like in the Far Cry 3 games, when you'd be taking over a base, and I'd whack a guy, I'd like stop and loot his body in the middle of a firefight, and Scott would be like, "You can go back later and do that. You're getting shot at." And I was like, "Nah, man, I got to do it now. Got to get that grip now." So
the loot is most important.
Yes.
I once profoundly embarrassed or annoyed a gaming friend because I can't remember where we were, what we were doing, but we'd been fighting something or other, and it was too much for us, so we were withdrawing. And my character had a sack of loot, and then my friend's dwarf fell down, and I could carry the loot or the dwarf. I said, "I'm going to miss you." And I was out.
Oh, man.
He was not well pleased.
I can imagine. I can definitely imagine. But that's what Animate Dead is good for. Well, Bob is down, man. Well, he doesn't have magic armor and full plate. He weighs and the magic user is going to be, I got this, guys. I got this. And you can pile lots of stuff on him. Just say, follow, Bob.
That's right.
Entirely.
All right. So, So you guys can see this on the screen share. It'd probably, unfortunately, be a bit small for you to get a good look at, unless you're one of those smartasses who has like three massive TVs as your monitors. Sorry, I said smartasses. What I meant to say was guys who work from home. Um, but
There,
yeah,
I brought
it'll
the
be hard for
focus
you
in.
to. Yeah. Did you? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it might be a bit hard for you to see, but anyway, so Bill rolled up Lieutenant, sorry, in American it's Lieutenant John Walters. So the stats are the for those who didn't see or don't remember, the stats are social, health, and education, and there's a fourth one, readiness. They're rated 0, 1, 2, 3. So 0 in social is like your homeless guy, your ex-con. Recent refugees, that sort of person. Um, Social level 1 is working class, level 2, middle class, level 3, upper class. The other way I express it is when you're social level 0, you don't shower. Social level 1, you shower after work. Social level 2, you shower before work. Social level 3, somebody else bathes you. Health Health is on the same scale, 0 to 3. So 1 is your ordinary sedentary person, 0 is sickly, 2 is active, and 3 is the gifted athlete type. And then education, 0, you didn't finish high school. 1, you finished high school. 2, you got some sort of tertiary education, and 3 is like PhD level. Uh, you don't a person doesn't necessarily have that actual qualification, but they've got that equivalent of education. Because we all know people who maybe just finished high school, but they're very well read, or they've got a lot of life experience, and so they've got the equivalent of a tertiary education. And by the same token, we know people who finished uni, and we're not even sure that they finished high school when we talk to them. So that's social, health, and education, rated 0 to 3. And then there's a fourth stat called readiness, which is basically how many actions you get in a combat round. And the default for most people in Western society is 0. In a conflict situation, if bullets start flying or somebody gets hit by a car in front of them, they just stand there gaping. At most, they might film it with their mobile phone, but they tend not to do anything. If you have any kind of military training, you get at least readiness 1. If you've got a bit of a rough background, if you grew up in the mean streets, you might have readiness 1 as well, but the training will still add to that. And a degree of combat or trauma experience will also add a level. So it's not just combat experience. It could be a person living in a violent area. If you're in that ghetto with 10 murders every weekend, even if you don't participate in any of that, you learn to be switched on and be ready to run like fuck. And as well might be trauma experience. So paramedics and people like that would have that as well. It's basically just when there's a crisis situation, are you the person who acts? And if so, how well and how quickly? Or do you just stand there going? So Walters went through multiple terms in the military. It works a bit like it does in classic Traveller. The only difference is that every time you attempt entry into the military or university or something like that, whether you pass or fail, it still takes up a year of your life. Because we all know people who've gone through, they've attempted to get to uni, or they go to university and they do their first year, then they drop out, or they attempt to enter the army and they spend some months trying to get fit, or they do repeated applications. They drop out through halfway through recruit course, that sort of thing. And then afterwards, a few months, they're kind of wandering around. So one way or another, simply attempting to enter or to get promoted, anything like that, is going to take up a year of your life. And if they're successful, then it takes another 3 years. And then in 1 year, they get one skill, and in the next year, they get another skill. And the third year is taken to be a deployment or time off or something like that. So in the you get a couple of skills for each term that you do, whether it be military or education or whatever. In the case of Walters, he entered as an enlisted man, and after one term, he got himself a commission. So they sent him off to university to get a Bachelor of Arts. Um, and he threw twice for interview skill, and he chose to do interrogation and psychology. Also, in the course of his military experience, he got some brawling. He learned to punch people. He learned to observe people. So, like the classic Sherlock Holmes things, I could tell by the ink stain on your finger that you're actually an accountant.
Yes.
And all that kind of stuff. And of course, he did plenty of hiking, and he learned to drive. Now, the skill system in school kind of thing, it's fairly generous in the default. It's assumed everyone knows how to start a fire, everyone knows how to set up a tent, everyone knows how to drive, everyone knows how to swim, and so on. There are basic things that everyone can do. Having the skill doesn't mean that you can do it. Almost everyone can do just about everything. Having the skill means that you can do the thing well or do it quickly. Like lock picking, for example. Any of us can get a door open. But getting it open without kicking it down, crowbar, sledgehammer, enough kicking, you can get that door open. But getting it open quietly is the lock picking skill. And doing it quickly is also, because it might take you or me 10 or 20 kicks because we don't know the exact spot to kick and so on. And we'll make a hell of a lot of noise and will take a long time. So the skill is not the skill in being able to do something, it's being able to do it well and do it quickly. Mm-hmm. Having a more kind of generous interpretation of skills like this tends to it stops people trying to mini-max their characters so much. Because if you have a game master who's like, I'm sorry, you don't have the driving skill. You're 30 years old, you get behind the wheel, you have no idea what to do. It's like, haven't I at least watched it on TV or something? Yeah. No, and you can't swim. You just, you get in the water and you just drown. Can I at least splash around and tread water, and even if it's really messy? No, you just drown. If you have that sort of thing, you'll inevitably get players want to have a skill list as long as your arm and try to do everything if you have that kind of adversarial approach. But if you have a sort of a reasonable approach where, as you grow up, you do things, you can't necessarily do them well or do them quickly, but you can do them. If you have that approach, then all you have to put on the character sheet is what they are good at. And that leads to a much smaller character sheet and less paranoid players. So that's the approach that I try to encourage in Conflict as a more old school style of game, which I hope makes sense to everyone.
It is the naval aviation versus the Air Force aviation approach, which, the Naval Aviation Pilot's Handbook is about this thick, and it's full of rules on what you can do when you're flying. The Air Force Aviation Handbook is that thick, and it just says, don't do these things while you're flying. Everything that is not mentioned is assumed to be allowed.
Yeah. So I like that sort of approach. It leads to a thinner book, thinner rule book, shorter character sheets, and then it lets people get into actually playing like they want to.
Yes.
Rather than paging through enormous books and so on.
Right. I was kidding before we started the stream about, if you were trying to reinvent the wheel of Rollmaster, we'd be on like session 3 of character creation with who knows how many to go next.
Yes.
Just buying things, and I don't mean equipment.
So that there is Lieutenant Walters, and he can go hunting. He can punch people in the head. He can interview. He can talk to people and suss out what's going in through their head. If you're bleeding out, he knows what to do. He's good at observing people. That goes well with the interrogation and psychology kind of thing. Um, and he knows how to pack for a hike, and he knows how to drive. Um, and as for his expertise, well, he's got expertise in English. Obviously, can speak English well as his native language, but also firearms. So what happens is that you get a familiarity of each of these things, like interrogation and psychology. If you get a third familiarity, it just resolves into an expertise. So all these things down here, he's got +1 with, and then these things here, when he goes to use them, he's got +3. And that's a big difference when you're rolling 2d6. So he's got that. Yeah, so basically, like if you like with firearms, if you've got handguns and rifles and assault rifles, you come to use a submachine gun or a rocket launcher, you're going to figure it out. You've got such extensive experience with all the others that you're going to figure this one out. Whereas if all you do is handguns, for example, you don't necessarily know what to do with a machine gun or a rocket launcher. I mean, you know which end the bullet or the round comes out, but you know, you're not necessarily adept in the use. Like firearm skill isn't just down at the range. It's you know how to handle urban fighting versus fighting out in the open, and if you've got knowing to change to your left arm if you come into a right-handed corner, and if you go around a corner with two guys, one goes low, one goes high, all that kind of little stuff you pick up. It's combat shooting. It's not merely firearms, and the same goes for all the other skills as well. First aid isn't just a day first aid course where you learn to put on a bandage. It's knowing what a Bolan dressing is and stuff. That's the dressing people use for a sucking chest wound. Um, Knowing all that sort of stuff as well. So it's a familiarity is that +1. That's sufficient to make a living doing that thing. It's a little mini profession. You won't be top of your profession or whatever, but it is sufficient to make a living. If you've got the full on expertise, well, people are going to listen to you. You know what you're doing with that thing. People are going to listen to you. So Walters might have been a firearms instructor at some point. So yeah, so that's the skill. So that's the character sheet.
Yep. And I copied all that down in Notepad and now have it saved locally, so no more embarrassing moments of, oh my gosh, what did I do with my grocery receipt?
Yeah.
So everything is there. He is built. He is ready to go.
Character sheet. The game master can easily keep a copy, and because
Uh-oh. Ladies and gentlemen, we have temporarily lost Kyle. Um, Hang on a second while I try and get him back. Looks like he's coming back in the call. Kyle, are you with us yet?
yep, I am. Sorry about that. Don't know what happened there.
That's quite all right. Let's go back to grid, and we'll hopefully get your there's the screen share. We can see the screen share. Still can't see your smiling face yet, but I know you're working on that.
We go.
Still don't see. There you are. All right, I got you now. Witness a rare event, an audio video problem with the crazy gibberish that was not my fault.
It happens sometimes. Happens sometimes. All right, so that is the rules coming up.
All right. I'm going to ask you to wait just a second, Kyle. The dog is barking in the other room. I need to make sure that we aren't being intruded on. Unlike Walter's there, I do not have any combat skills, so I'll be right back.
This is where we find out, was a true American? Will we hear gunshots? Has he kept a submachine gun at home for self-defense? Personally, I would if I were in the US. I find as I get older, I become more fond of the idea of firearms and things. Which is funny because I only used them when I was younger. I don't really use them. I don't use them now. All part of aging. Right, so you've now got a screen share of the rules, making an adventurer, talking about the social, health, and education. And those are all the skills, or more correctly, the expertises. Familiarities fall under them. And that's all about character generation. Might be worth, anyone who's interested, go back a couple of weeks in the streams and find the ones where we rolled up Bill's character.
So for our viewers who are sort of champing at the bit, waiting to get a copy, when will we be able to
when we've playtested it. When we've playtested it, anyone who messages me, I'm quite happy to provide a link to the current copies for them to have a look at.
Great. Awesome. So this is your chance to get in on the ground floor of a darn good lightweight action adventure warfare role-playing game. I highly recommend it. I like this a lot.
So the idea is to do the alpha testing and then the beta testing of it. Because if I just sit there looking at the rules, I'm just going to make them more complicated, and that's not good.
Yeah. You know, the same.
So what I'll do now is I'll just post a link to the Google Drive file in the.
Okay. The same thing applies to, like, as crazy as this may sound, and I think it applies broadly, but it applies very closely to miniature painting. You have to know when to stop. You have to know when good enough is. You have to be able to put your hands on the table and slide back and go, it doesn't need another layer of dry brushing. It doesn't need any more highlighting. That flesh tone is fine. I don't need to redo that eye. You will just drive yourself crazy trying to pile on more detail.
Yeah, of course. Same applies for everything. All right, so I'll just post the link in the chat. So yeah, that's the link to the PDF. You can go have a look.
Message me that link, cost. Sometimes links don't paste in live chat. I don't know why, but yeah, send me the link in Discord, and I will see if it'll let me copy and paste it. And we'll get that up.
Well, it's appeared for me.
Let's see, copy link.
It appears for you guys.
So if anyone wants to say whether or not, if I put it up there, yeah, there it is. So you can go ahead and grab that.
Yeah, so you can go ahead and have a look through with us and see if it interests you. And if not, tell us, and then we'll try to jazz it up and make it more interesting. Okay, so the rules in general emphasize the equipment and cooperation and planning. So on the on the system that I ripped so much off Traveller, your basic success throw is an 8 plus on 2d6. They don't really have a universal task resolution system. Every skill is different, but the basic thing is 8 plus. I made it 10 plus deliberately uh, to encourage a bit more teamwork and the emphasis of equipment, because everyone likes looking through lists of gear and buying stuff for their
Yes.
characters and that. So apart from firearms, like your basic equipment, got here is 0 for improvised equipment, like if you're using a piece of cloth as a bandage, that sort of thing. +1 is for basic equipment, 2 for professionals equipment, and 3 for a workshop. So basic equipment is like your own, like for example, for a physician skill, is your own first aid kit at home. That's just basic equipment. Um, and then a professional's equipment is what a paramedic or something will have. That's +2, and then +3 is like a full-on trauma ward with all their gear and so on. So that gives bonuses as well. You get bonuses from working together, assistance. So somebody else's familiarities may improve the odds. They throw the dice, and if they get 10 plus, then you get to add 1 when you do your roll. The second one is 12 plus, and the third one is 14 plus. If they assist you, it takes longer, but you get that bonus. So the classic thing is the medic who says, "Hand me that bandage," and if you have to know what that bandage is, if it says, "Hand me the bowl and dressing," and you don't know what the hell a bowl and dressing is, he has to tell you. So it takes a little bit longer.
Just
So if you throw successfully, that gives a +1, because he was able to keep doing things to the patient while you were fetching this and that. Um, that's your basic sort of thing. So I deliberately made things a little bit more difficult to encourage that kind of teamwork. Because as I've discussed many times, so as we've discussed many times, many modern games, the gamer comes to them with experience in playing computer games and a lot of later edition games like 5th edition and everything, where everyone's their own star. You're not really a party, you're a collection of Rambos.
yeah.
The guy running off on his own. The example I always give is the Mission Impossible TV series versus film. In the TV series, each person was a specialist and they worked together. In the first episode, there was one guy who was a strong guy, and all he did was carry a heavy suitcase. Carried a heavy suitcase with a person in it, and later carried a heavy suitcase with a nuclear weapon in it. But that's all he did. And he was ready to do other things, but he didn't have to do anything else. So in that they took a team of specialists and they tried to come up with a plan using everybody's specialist abilities, working together to achieve what they wanted. Compared to the Mission Impossible movies, which started off with, in the first 10 minutes, everyone else died. Emilio Estevez got hit through the eye by an elevator and that sort of thing. So
I remember it very well. I was hyped about it. This was pre like being able to just step on the internet and get like the entire plot of a movie. So I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be cool." Emilio Estevez, and there's this, and then they all get wiped out, and I'm like, "That's kind of a letdown."
yeah, it's just him running around like James Bond, doing everything on his own.
Yeah.
So now, if you're playing one-on-one, that's awesome. If you're playing in a group, though, what you have is everyone taking turns to be awesome. I think it works better if you make it more like reality, because in reality, it's quite rare for one heroic person to do everything by themselves. It's much more common for a competent team working together becomes heroic, because of all the awesome stuff they do, because they work so well together.
Yeah.
And you see this in particular in conflict situations or in trauma. Here in Melbourne, we've got a hospital called the Alfred, and the trauma team is quite well known around the world, apparently, because of how well they work together. Everyone has got their assigned roles, and when the patient comes in, everyone even to where do you stand? And there's a person, I believe, I could be wrong, I'm not a medical person, but they stand there with a clipboard at the head of the patient, and they're directing people. and they're talking them through it, even to like how they wash their hands and stuff. First you do this, then you do that, and there's a system for everything, and they talk through it, and everyone has their little role. Everyone has their role, and they don't deviate from that role. And it's been very effective. They get much better survival rates and much better outcomes than many other hospitals do. Even though the other hospitals have just as many competent individuals, but because they've got this system where they work together, they get better outcomes.
They've got the secret sauce.
And exactly. And this is certainly true of military situations. It's not just a matter of having a bunch of guys who are good at shooting or whatever, but how well they work together. And that's the real advantage that a first world military has over like a local militia or something. A local militia won't necessarily work well together. They haven't trained together every day for 2 years, the astronauts are another example. Each shuttle mission they spent like 2 years preparing for.
Yes.
Had run over everything before. They were used to working together. And that's why all those space missions, when you look up, Apollo 11 or, Vostok 1 or whatever, they'll have the first team, the backup team, and the reserve team. Because there's these 3 guys that are meant to work together. If one of them comes down sick, they don't just replace him with someone else. They replace the whole team.
Yeah.
And the second team comes up. Because they're used to working together. And you bring somebody new in, they don't know, they're just not used to working together. So that's what I wanted to emphasize in the rules. And so when you're running around by yourself, it's a lot tougher.
Yeah.
So we've got equipment and we've got assistance, and I put assistance first before the equipment because it's better to have a good team. I'd be more scared of a bunch of Navy SEALs with knives than I would of a bunch of Army reservists with rifles. Because the teamwork is much more important than anything else.
It depends on the context. If I was on the range with the Army reservists with rifles, I would be more afraid of them.
Yeah, there's that, but yeah.
Jammed.
Yeah, so there's that. So that's what I wanted to emphasize in the rules, and that's what you guys will see if you have a look at them. But of course, we have lists of stuff, and I plan on doing a whole book of different types of bang sticks and knives and cars and all that sort of stuff. I mean, I'll make them generic. I won't name AK-47 or whatever, but I'll make them generic because, like AK-47 versus M16, it's basically. One is not very accurate, but it's reliable. The other one is pretty accurate, but much less reliable. So, throughout history, there've been variations like. So that's the list of all the gear.
One of my favorite games by GDW is Twilight 2000, and I love Twilight 2000. But holy crap, is that gun porn? It's like AK-47, AK-74, AK-74SU, RPK, which is just an AK-47 with a really long barrel and a bipod to be used as a squad support machine gun. Just on and on and on and on and on and on and on.
Let's play demand. I mean, like on the fantasy side, Gygax, and on the sci-fi side, Mark Miller. Both of them said they put out their original rules, and people said, "Okay, where's the setting?" Well, you make up your own setting. No, where's the setting? You make up your So people demanded a setting, so they put settings out there. Sometimes multiple settings, and it's the same for all the gun porn lists of guns. Because the fact is that it doesn't make that much difference. You get hit by 5.56 or 7.62. Either way, it hurts. It's
yeah. They're going to be sponging you on the side of the truck. That's just how it is. And
well, as we said another time. So when the Australian Army changed from the SLR, which was the old Belgian FN-FAL 7.62 millimeter, to the Ausstire, which was a 5.56 millimeter, a number of infantry soldiers were heard to say, 5.56, who cares? That's a weak little round, that's nothing. And the instructing sergeant said, if you feel that it is nothing, then you can stand over there and I'll put a couple of rounds into you and we'll see what you have to say.
Yeah. I mean,
That kind of ended that conversation.
It's nothing enough that after the Vietnam War, when the Russians got their hands on the reports that the Pentagon wrote about 7.62 versus 5.56, they switched over to 5.45. A small getting hit with with a bunch of small caliber rounds is just as deadly as getting hit with a couple of large caliber rounds. So,
Yeah. I mean, I've got a fondness for the larger caliber. When in doubt, I would rather have a larger one than a smaller one. But I don't pretend it makes a huge quantifiable difference. Certainly not on a scale of 2d6. It's not going to make enough of a difference to really matter. That's the once again the resolution of the game. We're not going down into all the gruesome details of all injury and all the rest. So these things are super important. Okay, so for you guys today, an example combat.
I'm the lucky duck who's going to get shot at tonight on paper.
All right, and the scenario being that an experienced officer can't leave well enough alone. Right, that's the other aspect of readiness. Like, I'm a bit of a shit magnet. People tend to fall down in front of me, and in the street. I've had that. Just like walking to go and have lunch with somebody, and there's this guy sitting down, leaning against the side of the road, with drool coming out of his mouth and stuff. I thought he'd had a fit. End up doing CPR on the guy. And even when I don't go out, someone crashed their car into the tree in front of my house. So yeah, I'm a bit of a shit magnet. I've had my paramedic friends joke that I should be a paramedic since it's happening anyway. However, they would refuse to be partnered with. Apparently, in every branch, there's a shit magnet. There's a person who, if you're on shift with them, you're going to get the Gucci cases. You're going to get blood. You're not going to get the back pain guys or the guy with a bit of a cough who, nowadays he can't just go to his family physician. He has to call an ambulance. You're not going to get that. You're going to get the big drama and blood and screaming and all the rest. And they said I would be a shit magnet. But I think it's more that the person who's a shit magnet does in some cases go looking for it, because there was one occasion I heard a distance smash and it was out on the road, not outside my house, but a block down. And I got out of the house and I went to it. Because I'm just accustomed to doing that now. So I'm sure the same must be the case with somebody like Lieutenant Walters, who has years of experience, 18 years in the Army. If he hears shots fired, he is running towards the shooting. A normal person will drop behind something now, or they'll run away and hide. But someone who's been 18 years in will probably run towards the sound of the shots. Does that seem reasonable?
That's probably pretty reasonable, particularly in an urban setting. Like, on his way to get some almond milk and a copy of the paper, and rat-a-tat-tat around the corner from the Safeway is a little out of the ordinary.
Yeah. All right. So, Lieutenant Walters, he got discharged from the Army. He went out to the diner to wait for his bus. He got into a brawl in the diner. Eventually, the sheriff showed up and the MP showed up. Once they'd established there wasn't any shooting going on or anything, then they showed up and they took the guys away and they took Walter's statement. And then he got on his bus and he went home. Now, I don't know if New York is his home, but that's where he is today.
Sure thing.
He's walking down Madison Avenue. Okay, I'm going to change the windows now. You don't guys, so you don't see the rules, but you see this.
You still there, Kyle? I think he knocked himself off. He'll be back in a minute. Did we push the wrong button?
It seems when I try to change the screen that I'm sharing, it crashes.
Oh, that's no good.
So if I change again, I might have to stop the screen sharing, then restart it.
Okay.
But if I just change it, then it seems to crash here in the Discord.
Boo.
Okay. Let's see. Let's try that again. Yeah, because that's what happened last time too.
And once again, I'm going to...
Did you get that?
I see the YouTube window.
I'll stop that streaming.
Go back to grid until you are red eye to go. And I'll switch the... Crashed again. Just prepping my dice.
Sorry about this, guys. Discord's being silly buggers.
There we go. I see some stuff.
You got that now?
Yeah.
Sorry about that, guys. Okay. So this is 710 Madison Avenue. So he was cruising around there. Hot dog or similar, something similar. And this is actually a bank, or it was formerly a bank, because I found some plans for it. So at some point in its history, it was a bank. I have no idea if it is now. I'm not in New York. Anyway, so there's two vehicles. Pretend that this truck in front of the bank is not a semi-truck, but is actually a security truck, an armored van. This other truck over on the other side. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, this other truck on the other side, that's actually there. And just at this moment, you see one armed guy with a balaclava standing there with an AR-15. And there's a couple of security guards who are getting out of the truck here. They are obviously unaware of this guy over there. And you believe you see a glimpse through that doorway there. The front door. Mm-hmm. You believe you see a glimpse the end of a rifle barrel. Okay, and there's this security van just in front of it like that.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's one guy in the back of the truck there, There's all this assorted junk in there, and there's one guy there. You think there's another guy there in that, and the security guards are apparently unaware just at the moment because they've just pulled up. The security guys.
Okay, turn me 180 degrees. I want to see what's behind me. Just real quick.
Fashion shop.
Okay, I know what I'm going to do. At least in my
So
first.
this here, guys, you see glass. This is what we call cover from view. Perhaps might not be seen inside, but it's not cover from fire. This is glass. Whereas inside the bank over there with the big thick walls, that's cover from view and cover from fire. Over there. Okay, so as you are watching, until Bill interrupts me, I'm just going to keep describing what happens. So,
well, I'm interrupting you now. I am going to get behind the light pole, what cover it provides, and at the top of my lungs, yell, "Wells Fargo, gun, gun, gun!" Like I'm yelling to the armored car guys, and I'm yelling gun, gun, gun at the top of my lungs until they hopefully react.
Okay, right. So the vehicle is the security vehicle is pulled up and stopped, and one guy is getting out the passenger side and getting out onto the road, and you call out gun, gun, gun. All right, that's probably a leadership check from you because you're trying to take charge of the situation. So make a throw.
I have an 8.
You have an 8, and you didn't choose to take the leadership skill when you got promoted and commissioned and stuff. So that's not good enough to take charge, but they will hear your voice and look around, see how switched on they are. They're not terribly switched on. I just made a reaction roll, and he got 6. And not terribly switched on. He just stands there and he's looking around.
All right. Well, I've thrown a monkey wrench at the bad guy's plans.
Just there. So. Just so where the guy is, so he's in between where the security guard is. He's in between the door of the bank and the security truck there. He cannot see the armed guy there. He won't be able to see him there because of the corner of the bank. If there is somebody in the bank, he may be able to see him, but at the moment you don't see the rifle barrel.
Okay.
There's a few members of the public who heard gun, 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 and they're just looking around. What? It's readiness 0. Common citizen.
Sure.
Doesn't know what's going on. There's always a chance that there's another ex-military or off-duty cop or something like that around. You should throw the dice for that. If you get 12, there's another one around.
Oh. Wasted the box cars I got earlier. Oh, I got a cock to die. Damn it. An 11.
11. No. There's a guy who played Call of Duty once. So yeah, it's just you. Okay, but your call of gun, gun, gun has obviously alerted this guy that's over here in the other semi, and he dropped down to one knee and he's scanning around. He's looking for you. He's looking for who's the smartass who called out. He's scanning around. So at the moment you've got 2 guys who. So the guy in the truck, he will be able to. The guy in the truck back there, the bandit, will be able to see the security truck, but he won't be able to currently see the security guard, and of course he can't see him either because the vehicle's in the way. If either of them move about a yard to one side, they'll be able to see each other.
Okay.
They'll be able to see each other.
So
okay, so another round.
See me, but he's looking for me, right?
Yes, he's looking for you. He's looking for you. And at this point, a few other people are starting to duck behind things and just sort of nervously back off from the area. Standing over here, this guy's sitting down. He's got his mobile phone and he's starting to film.
Okay.
This happens in every trauma or conflict situation, guys.
Of course it does. Of course it does.
Somebody starts filming.
All right. In my next action, I'm gonna.
Yeah, we're not into combat rounds yet.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm gonna slide standing up so as not to attract attention to myself. Since he clearly doesn't know it was me who yelled that,
Yeah.
I'm gonna start walking across the street there, the view we've got towards that.
By the way, what are you wearing? Are you still in your ACM or in civilian gear one?
Civilians at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just gonna walk in that direction and just kind of look around at people with a confused look on my face, like what the hell? Like I don't know what's going on.
So you cross the road at the improvised zebra crossing here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay, so wander along, a bit confused. There's a few other people looking confused. They see the armed guy. People obviously see the armed guy there on the truck, but there's the other truck there. A lot of people might not assume that it's a bandit unless he's shouting at them or something. They'll just assume it's another security guy or mind their own business. A lot of people are quite oblivious. Some of you may have heard of that experiment where they show people the film of guys playing basketball and ask them to count how many times they pass to each other. And then in the middle of the shot, a guy walks through in a gorilla suit. And then afterwards they ask, how many times did they pass? And people say they passed 12 times or whatever. Did you notice the guy in the gorilla suit? What? No, there was no guy in the gorilla suit. Because they were so intent on one thing that they didn't notice something else.
Well, it's just because they're not used to.
This is why observation. Beware the ape.
It always comes back to ape cults with you.
But
cry of ook ook.
No, but this is why observation is a skill. It's really obvious things. So, especially once the adrenaline is up. When the woman crashed her car in front of my house, I went to get into the car, and I went up to it, and I tried to open the. She was in between the driver and the passenger seats and lying half on the back seat. She hadn't worn a seatbelt. I tried to open the driver's side door. It didn't open. I tried to open the passenger behind the driver. It didn't open. I went around to the front passenger and that opened. The thing is, the driver's side door, the window was open. I could have just reached in and unlatched it. But I didn't think that.
Right.
I didn't think of it in that moment. I was so intent on getting in the vehicle, I didn't think about how to best get in the vehicle. That's and that's why I'm not a paramedic or whatever.
Just so.
So yeah, you can surprisingly miss obvious things. So yeah, there's these people wandering around a bit randomly. Still, okay, you get across the road. Oh, you're unlucky. He spots you, right? The guy in the back vehicle, he spots you when you're just on that corner.
Okay.
And he's already got his rifle at his shoulder. He raises it up to his shoulder, and he just calls out, "Back the fuck off!"
Again, I'm just gonna make like a rube. I'm gonna put my back to the building, on my right.
Yeah.
And just sidle down the street looking as terrified as anybody normally would until I am out of his line of sight.
Keep going down that street that the truck is on.
Yes.
And keep going down that, what is it, Lexington or something?
Line of sight,
yeah. Okay, so you keep going down there. So yeah, so once you're at about that tree, you only have to go another few yards, and then the vehicle itself will obscure the guy's view.
Okay, that's where I'm crossing
Plus, of
over.
course, he is watching for.
Right. That's where I'm crossing over and
Yeah,
starting to move
yeah.
back.
So you're just at that corner when he yells at you. You're back against that wall, and then you sidle down that way. You,
Mm-hmm.
once you get to about that tree, you won't be visible to him anymore,
Okay.
unless where he is. Okay, him yelling out that threat though has alerted the guard that was um, standing in front of the door. That guard steps forward to the corner because he definitely heard that yelling, and seeing that, the guard the guard sees that. How ready is he to fight? Whoa, fuck! Yes, he is ready. Okay, that guard is pretty gung ho, and without even backing behind the bank for cover, he draws his weapon. He unholsters his weapon. Okay, so those two are going into a combat. Do you want to throw for the guard? You want to
Yes,
roll
I
for the
will.
guard?
I will throw for the guard.
Okay, so first there is so they haven't surprised each other because they're both right in front of each other and they knew each other was coming. So this is just a straight initiative roll. It's so you roll 1d6.
Got a 4.
Four. The guard has got one readiness. I threw a 6. The bandit's got one readiness, so that adds to it. The more ready people act more quickly. So the bandit goes first, and he fires. Okay, so he is firing. My combat charts. Okay, he is firing. He is familiar with his weapon, so he gets +1. He's at a range of about, what would you say that is between the truck and there? It's more than 6 yards, but under 12. Yeah,
I'm gonna
between the
call it
truck
10.
and the
I'm gonna
corner.
call it 10 yards. I'm gonna call that 10 yards.
Yeah, yeah. So it's more than 6 and under 12. We got range bands. We don't go down to individual yards. In the rule, that gets, because then people definitely have to have miniatures. Okay, so he's just got a -1, so it's just a straight throw. So he goes blat. 9. Whoa, he just misses. He just misses. Fires. It's an AR-15, so he's not able to fire auto. So yeah, it just goes flat. All right, and rounds go tink tink into the truck and onto the asphalt around. Boom, boom. Fires a few rounds. Okay, that's and now it's the guard's turn.
Calling that an 8. Yes, 8.
8. Okay, so he has the familiarity with it, so that's +1. Becomes 9. Yeah, he will just miss as well. His rounds go ping 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 around on the asphalt and onto the truck around
All right.
as he fires around. By the way, for those who don't know, in conflict, a combat round is a minute, and when you fire, you're not necessarily firing a single shot. It's how many shots are needed to have an effect, whether it be to actually create a wound or to actually to hit him, or having hit him to actually create a wound, and so on. We don't really worry about counting rounds. And if a person rolls low, then they get a stoppage, which might be the weapon's jammed or it's run out of rounds or whatever. If you do things like firing automatic, or the more negatives that you have, the more likely you are to get a stoppage. So if you just sort of close your eyes, then you're wasting a lot of rounds to try to get a hit. So you're more likely to get a stoppage. Whereas if you're sniping somebody, taking slow, careful, well aimed shots, when you yourself are not under fire and all the rest, you're very unlikely to get a stoppage. So that's that didn't happen here, but yeah, that gives you the idea. Okay, next. next combat round. The guard has one readiness, so he gets one action.
The
He
guard.
can move. He can fire.
The guard is actually going to move to the corner for cover. I'm going to assume
Yep.
that he's.
By the way, the guard has body armor. Okay, so he has a sidearm. He has a pistol. There's also a shotgun in the cab of the vehicle.
Okay.
But the standard operating procedure is not to open the vehicle at this stage.
What is the what are the other armored car members doing?
So the guard knows. So right, there's a driver, and there's another one in the back with all the cash.
Mm-hmm.
This is a cash drop off. This is actually an unscheduled cash drop off. You were a bit unlucky. It looks like you think maybe the bandits were here to rob the bank, and they didn't know that there was going to be a cash drop off at this time.
Okay.
It was an unscheduled one, but it was just aside the morning. So either, hey, maybe there's an inside guy. You don't know. The guard's name is Hector, by the way.
All right, Hector. I'll do what I can. So yeah, the guard is taking his action as movement to the corner for cover, and so that's what he'll do. Now can Walter.
All right, and the bandit's action is going to be to shoot at you. So now we roll. Now we throw for initiative to see who goes first.
I got a 3.
I get a 5. Remember to add your 1 for your readiness.
So that's 4.
Okay, so the bandit goes first. So as you are moving, he shoots at you, and he goes boop, 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 boop. And oh shit, he gets a stoppage. All right, so you see him starting messing around with the cocking handle and so on.
All right, can Walter's?
So yeah, he was so desperately firing rounds. He either the weapon jammed, it's not maintained properly, or he's burned through his whole magazine. You don't know, but yeah, lots of shots ping around the truck and on the road, and people are definitely getting out of the way now. And this dude's just sitting there. He's still filming on his mobile phone.
World star. So can Walters act at this point?
Yes.
Okay. When I hear "oh shit," click, 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 I've seen enough action to know what that entails. I'm gonna sidle up and basically try and snatch the guy off the tail of the truck, hopefully taking him face first into the pavement.
Okay, so where he is, it might be a bit of a reach, with that little platform, might be a little bit of a reach.
Okay.
But yeah, so that'll be one move action, and then an attempt at a grapple.
All right.
Okay, so you don't have to throw for the move action, but yeah, the grapple.
All right.
All right, so that'll be the next. So the Hector still gets an action.
Oh, okay.
Because the bandit went first, right?
All right. Got a 12. Witness me.
Okay, so now you throw for effect of the wound. Okay, so this is a D6 roll
3
on the hit matrix.
1.
Yep, 3, 1. So you hit him in the right arm, and that'll be an incapacitating wound. He has body armor, but it doesn't make a difference in this case. It's still an incapacitating wound. All right. So he's struck in the arm. He will fall down. Whether he stays down is another matter. He'll fall down. Okay, so. And then Walter's action, he runs over there. And the guy's fallen down. He's been shot in the right arm, so he will have dropped his rifle as well. So you can grapple him or you can grapple his rifle.
I'm going to grapple the rifle.
Okay. So you make a throw. You need, if you get 10 plus, so you make a throw to see how well you grab it. You can certainly grab it.
If I'm lying,
if you just wish to, so if you get 10 plus, you can grab it and use it. If you get 6 to 9, you can grab it, but you'll need a ready action to use it in the next round. And if you get less than 6, you can just knock it aside.
I, in fact, rolled a 12.
Okay. So you neatly snatch it up.
All right.
Neatly snatch it up. It's still stoppage. It's still a stoppage. You need to clear the stoppage though.
Okay.
That'll be an action. You don't need to throw for it, but it's an action.
Okay, then I will.
So this guy's lying on the thing, going incapacitated. His right arm won't work unless he makes a big throw. Okay, we'll see next round.
Okay. I'm gonna. It is soliloquy is not an action. I can yell something, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can always mouth off.
Uh, I yell to the guard. There's one in the doorway.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm going to throw some. Seeing this guy react, hoping he maybe get the worst as a reservist, at best a veteran. I'll do the whole kind of
What?
the hand signs.
Oh, right.
That way. Is that a
Okay.
leadership
Well, throw
again?
your background. Well, yeah. It's a leadership role.
All right. That's a 9.
9. Yeah. No, he's not a veteran. He's not a veteran. He's a lifetime mall cop.
Okay.
But he spends a lot of time at the range. That's why he's got the skill still. All right. So Hector turns around and he goes to the door. Okay. So now we throw for surprise.
Single die.
So that's a single die. Yep.
4.
4. Yeah. So Hector's approaching the doorway, and he sees a barrel of a rifle. There's a guy concealed behind a counter or something like that. And there's a bit of screaming from inside the bank. They've heard the shots and they've realised there's an armed guy there. So Hector sees the guy. So he's not surprised, and Hector has one free action. He sees this armed guy, but the bank is full of civilians as well.
Okay. So am I just on the lee side of that pillar up against the brick wall as Hector?
Yeah.
Okay. I see a gun barrel. Do I see a hand on the foregrip?
Sense to just poke it around.
Do I see a hand on the foregrip?
You see a barrel and you know where the guy is.
Okay. I'll drop to one knee and take a peekaboo shot upwards. So it's not going to go that way, it's going to go that way.
Okay, you're just firing into the ceiling.
No, I'm trying to fire into him.
Okay.
But if it does miss, my hope is that the shot goes up, not through.
Well, that would be trying to do an aim shot at his head or something like that, and that's a -4. Actually, you're more like, if you try to get fancy compared to just aiming at center of mass, you're more likely to hit in that. So it occurs to Hector that he'd much rather have the rifle at this point, or maybe he should wait for the SWAT team to arrive.
That's a good.
Depends how heroic Hector is. Hector is an NPC, so he's not going to be that heroic.
Okay.
But maybe Lieutenant Walters is.
All right. What is the one-armed bandit doing at this point?
Okay. The one-armed bandit, he seems to be pulling himself up. He's getting himself up. That's all he's doing this round. He's getting up.
I'm going to charge the M16 pointed at him and say, "Sit the fuck down."
Okay. Make a reaction throw for him. 2d6.
8.
8. Okay. Yep. He's aggressive, but that's a talk result. But that's on the aggressive side of talk. And so he has some rude words for you, but he sits down.
All right. How many?
He shows you one finger.
Do I hear sirens yet?
It's been what 3 rounds? Yeah, you probably hear sirens by now. Yeah.
Yep. I figure
Someone will call the cops.
2 more minutes of response. 2 more minutes of travel time, and we should have armed response on the scene.
Well, the first thing you're pretty sure the first thing they'll do is just cordon off the area, so they don't have any more civilians running in that.
Sure.
Because if they've got reports of armed men amongst all the civilians within the bank, it's now a hostage situation.
Right.
So they don't want to get more, or a siege situation. So most likely they'll first cordon off the surrounding streets before they go charging in.
Okay. I'm going to give this guy...
This isn't the SWAT movie from 2003.
Right. I'll give this guy a quick look over. I'll use observation if I need to. I want to know if he was supposed to be any part of crowd control, because if he is, he might be carrying zip ties.
Who's that? Sorry,
the
Hector.
The guy I've got on the back of the truck.
All right. Yes, he's carrying some zip ties. You search him over. You don't have to throw. He's carrying some zip ties.
Then he's going to be wearing them. That's what I'm tying him up.
Okay. Yeah. He also had a knife on him.
Oh yeah.
But because he got shot in the right arm, he didn't use it.
Yeah. I pull the knife. I'll throw it out on the street. You're just full of bad habits, aren't you? Concealed weapons inside the borough of Manhattan. That's like a year in Rikers.
Well, AR-15 as well.
Yeah. But knee in the small of the back, hands behind the back, zip ties. Don't give a fuck if this exacerbates the wounds. He's not going to get up and tackle me. Ankles too.
Yeah, hold time.
Yep.
Okay, roll for surprise.
8.
I'm
sorry.
Sorry, it's a 1d6.
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 5.
Okay, one guy gets a round of surprise on you. Oh. It's the driver of the vehicle that you're in. And he gets out and he goes blam with his shotgun. Oh, that's going to hit you.
Oh dear.
Okay. You can roll for hit location on yourself.
Hooray.
You can roll 1d6 and then 1d6.
4.
4. Left arm. Boom. All right, some pellets hit you on the left arm.
Okay.
If you'd been wearing body armor, that wouldn't hurt. Wouldn't have injured you. But of course, you're just walking down the street in New York and you're not wearing body armor. So
should have been.
You're struck in the left arm.
All right.
Yeah. You'll be at -2 until that wound is treated. You'll be at -2 to actions involving the left arm.
All right. Well, I'm holding the famously light recoil Armalite AR-15, so that's in my right hand.
Yep. Well, you still use 2 hands on it.
Can I return fire?
You fire it one-handed, you're at a negative. You fire it two-handed, you're at a negative. It comes to the same thing.
All right.
Comes to the same thing.
All right.
Yeah, light recoil. Okay. Okay, so the surprise round is over. So now it's initiative between you and the driver.
That's a 5.
1d6 +1. 5, and yeah. So is that 5 with your +1?
No, that is a straight 5, so 6.
Yeah, so 6. Yeah, so you go simultaneously, and when you are At range. Okay, so initiative. Let's check the initiative rules. Okay, ranged combat ties are resolved in favor of ascending order of weapon size. Thus, for example, fist, then knife, then handgun, and finally long arms. His sawn-off shotgun is shorter than your Armalite, so he goes first.
All right.
Blam! And pellets go off into the background and kill a pigeon or something, but they don't harm you. He misses. All right. That's his one action. His one action. You've got two actions. What are you going to do?
Shoot and shoot.
Okay. Okay, go for it.
11.
Yep. 4. Okay. So the first shot will hit, and then the second will be a stoppage. So roll for your effect, the wound matrix.
5, 6.
6. All right. You shoot him in the ankle, in the right leg.
I was trying to bring it back.
So he says ow and falls down, and you're going to do a second shot, and you get a stoppage. But it still fires in this case.
Okay.
But you'll miss, of course. That and then you have to spend around clearing a stoppage. There's some spare magazines on the guy that you hogtied. I assume that you grabbed them. There's 2 spare magazines.
Sure.
They're all ready for action.
They have the 2 magazines taped together because thus to ensure jams.
Yeah, of course. Why do you think you're getting so many jams? So that guy's down. He's still armed. He's got his shotgun. So what are you going to do in your next round?
He's still got his shotgun. It's still usable.
Yeah, well, it's next to him. He's fallen down, and he's going ow, and he's reaching for his shotgun. That's his action this round. He's going to reach for his shotgun, and he's probably going to shoot at you in the following round if he can. He only gets 1 action a round. So I got written this one.
So I have 2 actions. One will be to clear the jam, and the second will be to shoot him again.
Okay. So you don't need to throw to clear the jam, but you do need to throw to shoot him. Still need to do an initiative.
6 total.
He gets 5. 6. So you go first. So he's reaching for his shotgun.
All right. Come on, baby. Daddy needs a new dead bandit. 11.
11. Yep, and he's within 12, but he's more than 6, but within 12 yards. So that's a -1. You've got a +3, so that's +2. Yep, you'll easily hit him. Okay, roll for the wound.
3 and 1.
3 and 1 in the right arm. You keep going for shoulder shots. You must be going center of mass and then drifts up. This is drifting up to the left. So that's boom. That's the same as the other guy popped, an incapacitating wound in his right arm. The incapacitate. So he can't do anything at the moment. He may be able to pull himself together in the next round, but yeah. But yeah, that arm stops reaching for the shotgun anyway. So what are you going to do in your next combat round?
I'm going to walk over, grind my heel on the shot arm, and I'm going to yell at him. How many are inside?
Okay, so that's a move and a move action and a sadistic torture action, which I'm fully on board with.
That's fine. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're out there watching this and you're shocked and appalled and getting ready to click the report button on YouTube, you came to the wrong
channel. All right, so this is a big guy, big heavy guy. You can have a look at him now. He's not wearing a balaclava, or he's got his balaclava on, but he hasn't pulled it down. He was just sitting behind the wheel of a vehicle. He didn't think that he needed to conceal his identity.
Right. So it just looks like a stocking cap on his head.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, it's a beanie, so it keeps his head His head will get up in New York. Anyway, yeah. So make a reaction throw for it. Let's see how aggressive or
6.
low roll is good. 6. Okay, so he's on the talk side of things. Plus he's injured, so it drops him down. And he says, "Well, sorry, he doesn't hold up his right hand. He holds up his left. Get off my shoulder!" Oh.
All right. I'm going to take
So
around.
there's 2.
I'm going to take around and zip tie him.
Yep. Okay. So you're doing that. All right. So you hear distant sirens and you hear like police megaphones. So up the road, you just see the blue flashing lights, and you know that the police will be cordoning off the area.
Okay.
In the streets 1 block around. So it'll be over here. And then you'll see lights down there. The next block. You can't see them, but you know they'll be at the next intersection. So they basically do 1 intersection away.
Right on.
All right. 1 intersection away.
I am.
So there's one wounded guy hogtied there. Another wounded guy hogtied there at the bottom of the truck.
Mm-hmm.
And it does occur to you this time. So you glance inside the cabin of the truck. There's another AR-15 sitting in there in the cabin.
Okay. Well, that one's coming with me.
Yeah.
And I'm going to move around and see how Hector's holding out.
There's also 2 flashbangs. So stun grenades. There's 2 of those sitting there.
All right.
And you see on the seat, you see a big on the vinyl of the seat in the front of the truck. You see a big square impression. It looks like there was a heavy case there of some kind.
Shit.
Like a toolbox or something like that. It's not there now, but it looks like there was one there.
Yeah. Oh, hey. Any radios? Like
no radios. These guys don't have radios on their persons.
Okay.
They have more than readiness 1 if they were that well organized. So you're getting the impression that these are guys. These aren't like ex-military guys or whatever. They don't have a perfectly executed plan with a great leader or anything. But they do have experience in violence. And this probably isn't
like this is a perfect, flawless plan.
Yeah. And this probably isn't their first rodeo.
Yeah.
So they were just a bit unlucky that someone experienced happened by, and they were also unlucky that the security van showed up when it did. That was extra armed opponents.
Now here
is had you not been passing by, and had they simply been going into the bank, then they might have been able to piss off. Get in and out fairly quickly and piss off.
Okay.
But yeah, they're not super well organized, and they're also unlucky. So.
All right. So.
All right. You hear a shot fired inside the. Hear a shot fired inside the bank, and you hear a shot fired from inside the bank, and a voice yelling something aggressive.
Okay. Here is a question. First of all, I am going to grab the flashbangs, but this is kind of a rules thing, and I think a lot of viewers might be interested in this. Is there any chance, any danger through just normal action that my character might slip into shock, having taken a bullet
wound? What are you saying? Any danger?
Having been wounded, having taken a bullet wound, as he acts and the adrenaline is pumping, or is there any chance, like, is there a
No,
point down the
no.
line
So
where?
there are just three different. There are three different kinds of wounds. There's KIA, incapacitated, and wounded in action, and basically they fall into the triage categories. KIA isn't. I might rename it. The triage categories are immediate, delayed, and minor.
Okay.
Where immediate, the person needs immediate attention, or they're going to die. There's delayed, where they definitely need medical attention, but they're not going to die in the next 20 minutes, whatever. And then there's minor, which you can walk away and take yourself to somebody else to deal with. You're not going to die in the next day. Those are the three basic categories. If you've got that, you know it, right? So the only the thing is, one wound can become worse, but not really in the midst of combat. It takes time for it to become worse. So an incapacitating wound that isn't treated will, over some hours, become a KIA wound.
Okay.
Right, and that's like if you get a broken femur and you do nothing, you just lie there for 12, 24 hours. That it could be the femoral artery, it could bleed out, or it could get infected, or something like that.
Right.
But if you get treated, you will definitely survive. Now, if that's happening in the midst of combat, if the person's got a minor wound, they just have a -2 to whatever they're doing in the midst of their action. If they've got an incapacitating wound, most of the time they just lie down. They can make a throw to ignore it, and they treat it like a minor wound. But it still has to be treated later, but they can ignore it for the moment. The leg's broken, but I'm going to fight on. Fuck it. And then the KIA wound, they're invariably knocked out. They're out. They're not doing anything.
Right.
And left to themselves, they're going to die within the next 20 minutes. So those are the three categories. So the only one that's really tricky is the incapacitated one, where you can ignore it. So, but it's not going to spontaneously become worse. You may choose to ignore it and it becomes better, or you may get some really quick first aid if the combat's long enough that it brings you back. The first aid always takes some time, like 10 minutes or something. But yeah, so you can go around with that wound, and you can just leave it. It's just it's nothing serious.
Well, here's the thing. Action movie Bill says charge in with an M16 in each hand, and a flashbang in my teeth.
Yeah.
Realistic Bill says these guys aren't going anywhere. The police have cordoned off the area. I've been shot in the arm.
Yeah.
Running around with an M16 is a good way to get myself shot in the head by an overeager police sniper. So, I mean, honestly and realistically, I think at this point, it's like the old joke: a sucking chest wound is Mother Nature's way of saying slow down. These two guys are not going to get up there bleeding and in a lot of pain on the sidewalk. I fucked up their ride out, so I'm going to motion to Hector, try to get his attention. Did the dude with a rifle duck back in the bank? That is my only concern at this point.
Yeah. He's well within the back, and that's the shot that you heard.
I'm going to yell to him, "Hey,
You
Brinks!"
hear Hector call out. Hector call out. He shot a fucking hostage.
All right. Damn it.
And all these scenarios run through your head of why he might have shot a hostage. He might be trying to show how badass he is, or someone in the bank might have got ambitious and tried to be a hero. You don't know. Or, maybe he pointed a gun at somebody's wife and the guy got pissed off. There's endless possibilities.
Yeah.
You hear that, yeah. So the police are just finishing up cordoning off the area outside and clearing the people out of this area. That'll probably take them another 5 to 10 minutes to clear all the people out of here. and send a message to the people in the local office buildings to shelter in place, stay away from the windows. They'll tell them to do all that.
I'm gonna
But yeah,
try
it
and
would be completely reasonable to leave it up to them at this point.
yeah. I mean, at this point, I know what their answer is gonna be. I'm gonna try the stage one John McClane approach. Break out my mobile, call 911, tell them where I am, who I am,
Yeah.
and ask them what they want me to do.
And they tell you to that you should make your weapon safe, put it down, and then approach your nearest police officer with your hands on your head.
Then I'm gonna do just that.
Because at the moment, as you said, like an overzealous police sniper, because you're standing around the bandit truck,
Yeah.
blood on you, and they're with blood on you, and you're in civilian clothes. You know, you're not in uniform or something. That's why it was, whether or not you're wearing uniform was an important point, because if you're in uniform and you're telling just common civilians or whatever what to do, they're more likely to listen to you. And you're less likely to just be blown away by an overzealous police sniper. But the other aspect, of course, is that bandits and so on are more likely to see you as a threat and pick on.
Yeah. So
So
what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drop the mags.
those are the instructions.
Yeah. I'm gonna drop the mags, pull the bolts, hand them to Hector, and hand held high, hand singular held high. I'm gonna move towards the nearest police cordon.
Well, yeah. So Hector and his guys also get out of the security truck, and they go up to the police cordon with you. They don't bother disarming themselves. You know, they're in the security uniform,
Sure.
and Hector's wounded and everything. Okay, yeah. So the police take you and they interview you and they thank you for making their problem, halving the size of their problem. As you and Hector took out two of the guys, that leaves just the two inside, and they're in communication with the bank robbers, and it seems that yes, one of the people inside the bank, one of the civilians, hostages, if you like, did get a bit overzealous and get himself shot. Getting himself shot by one of the bandits. Oh, sorry. Died.
Oh.
It takes some hours, but eventually the bandits come out and surrender.
At some point
Eventually come
during
out
that
and surrender because there's nowhere.
conversation with the police, when I guess I'm sitting on the back bumper of an ambulance getting my arm wrapped up, I'm going to say, "Oh, by the way," pull a couple of flashbangs out of my shirt pocket and hand it to them. They had these.
Yeah. They would have patted you over and found those.
Right.
Yeah. So had you not taken those two guys out, even when the cops showed up, they might have tried. The guys might have tried to make a run for it. They might have tried to run for their vehicle, and then just using the truck, just barrel through police cordons, push all the cars out of the way. They might have tried that, but with just the two of them, and with two of them captured, they decided that it wasn't worth it. Once they had time to think about it, if it had been the heat of the moment, maybe they would have done it. But once they had a couple of hours to think about it, they decided to come out peacefully.
Well,
Bank sieges don't tend to end violently if you give them a few hours. The question is whether or not you have a few hours, and that's why the shooting of the hostage was designed to elicit that question in your mind. Do we have a few hours, or are they just going to shoot one every minute until we let them out?
well, your game, and I mean
Important.
this in a complimentary fashion, your game is geared in such a way, again, where I was like, going in and trying to be a big damn hero with a shot up arm is a good way to get a bunch of people killed. You're talking about Manhattan Bank, minimum of 10 civilians, not counting
Yep.
tellers inside. These guys can
Yep.
hide behind a lot of folks. That's just asking civilians to die.
Yeah, and the difference between you and them is that you care if civilians die and the bandits don't.
Exactly.
So,
So.
they're already facing life in prison, so they're not too fussed.
Well, I gotta say, dude,
Um,
that was a damn fine scenario, and I like when you were like talking about a bank heist, like something that could go down like the North Hollywood shootout or the big bank heist in the third act of Heat. I was like, yeah, Gary, sit down. I got to do this thing with Kyle. I I really wanted to give this a try, and it
it was possible. I had the bank plans if you were going to have a shootout through the bank,
well,
because that was the other possibility that you and the guard would go charging in. So I
yeah,
had the bank plans and that.
I mean, again, I tried to.
And it was also possible, as I said, if you hadn't taken out the driver and the guy in the back of the vehicle, it was also possible that there'd be a running gun battle, and it was also possible that that running gun battle would involve vehicle combat as well, with the truck charging through. So there were many possibilities. It all just depended on chance and luck and so on. And hey, they might have won initiative and shot you in the head in the first round. So
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when you said the guy is like panning and scanning and looking for who yelled gun, 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 I was like, fuck, this is gonna end like right now. I'm about to eat a 2-2-3 round, and thus Walter's illustrious career ends tonight, like 1 minute in.
yeah, yeah, but I also want to compliment you on using tactics and good sense. So you didn't just charge in because you guys will have probably figured out by now that had he just run up to the back of the truck to wrestle with the guy, it might have had a messy ending.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're talking
Why not?
about an intersection there, 15 yards of open pavement. He sees some buff military dude charging straight at him. That's what, 2 rounds of nothing but pure fire, aimed fire he can take on me.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, you could have two shots at you, and even if he doesn't hit you, there's still rounds going off into an area with a lot of civilians around and so on.
Yep,
So and even if he's just lucky and hits you, the round that hits you by accident hurts as much as the one that hits you on purpose.
just so. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
crux
So
of role playing. I didn't just say like, what's a cool thing to do. I thought about the role that I'm playing. What would this guy? What would an experienced guy in his mid 40s? He has seen all the John Wayne shit not work specifically in both training and action in the military. What's what's he going to do? And it's not going to be run into a building full of hostages and potentially get him killed. You know, that's leave
yeah,
that Call of Duty shit on the
and
Xbox.
and Bill's question, like, do they have radios and so on? That also answered, did they have a competent leader? And they didn't. It was four guys acting as individuals. They had a common plan, but they didn't have a common leader. They didn't have a way to communicate with each other. Because the guys who went inside, maybe the guys outside see like two police cars just they stopped to get a hot dog or something. These two cops have just rocked up, or four cops have just rocked up. That could have happened. So they needed some way to communicate between each other. So the failure of their plan is in large part due to their lack of communication and leadership within them. But they're criminals. That's why they're criminals. They're not a SWAT team or whatever.
Well, I'm not
So
gonna lie. My primary reason for asking about the radio was because I was gonna tap it and say, "Ho ho ho! Now I have a machine gun too."
of course, yeah.
You know,
So
I
hopefully that little playthrough will illustrate some of the concepts in conflict and how we hope they all work together. Consider that an alpha test. Um,
well,
yeah, hopefully that'll illustrate a few.
it was a lot of fun, and you know, guys, follow that link. Check this out. This is good stuff. This is, I mean, it's Traveler for modern day grunts, and I hope you don't take that as damning with faint praise, Kyle, because it's not the intent, man. It's really, it's it puts one in a situation where you really got to role play. I mean, it is capital R role play. Like I said, Walters was not going to go in John Rambo, big damn hero, like bop 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 bop, thinking I'm going to just whack all these guys one at a time. No, I've seen how the system works. I know how badly I'm hurt, and I know trying to ping off with just one hand the lightweight construction and no recoil of the Armalite, it doesn't factor into these rules. It's just you're in a minus because you don't have a hand on the
Yeah.
foregrip. So
Yeah.
it
Or
really it made me stop and it made me think, and I enjoyed the hell out of it, and I hope you guys enjoyed seeing it. Like this tight little machine moving in play. So I guess the big question now, Kyle, the most important question is, when do the rules for tank combat come out? I'm kidding.
Me and McCarver have been discussing that. Me and my daughter have been discussing that because she's fully into tanks, and I said, because I said to her, if a tank appears somewhere in the campaign, the players will want to climb into it and fire it, And she said, yes, that is true. And she said, I can't think of anyone who might like that.
Well, I'm on Merkava's side. I am Team Merkava. So.
Yeah. So, well, we're working on those, but we'll work on the personal stuff first, because
Yes.
Really that's the focus of it, about squad combat.
Yep.
And the scenarios are not likely to be a large-scale conventional war, because the basic thing is autonomy of players. Players like to be autonomous. They like to be a tight little team running around doing their own thing. So they need a certain amount of chaos in the scenario, even if it's just chaos for one morning, like a bad morning in New York with a bank robbery. They need a certain amount of chaos, and they need a certain amount of autonomy. If you're in a large military, in a conventional conflict, you don't have that autonomy. You go to that hill because you're told to go to that hill. You use this weapon because you're told to use that weapon, and so on. So players tend not to enjoy that, and that's why this is less like Twilight 2000 and more like Merc 2000, like a mercenary team. So it's after your service, what sort of stuff do you do? And if you continue using the skills in your service, you're more likely to be in your executive outcomes or your Blackwater or whatever, in that little group doing your own thing, and you don't have a lot of resources available to you. I think I told you, I saw an interview with Eben Barlow, the head of the South African mercenary company, Executive Outcomes, and he was talking about how they were training up guys in the Central African Republic to fight the Lord's Resistance Army, like Kona, the child soldiers and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And they'd get intel to chase them around. But of course, chasing someone who's on foot while you're on foot, they tend to just stay the same distance from you. You never quite catch up to them. So he's like, it'd be really good if we could have Land Rovers and stuff, we got them, but it's a jungle. So if we could have helicopters and things, that would be really awesome. And the government had a couple of helicopters, but the helicopters were flown by Russian pilots, and they were leased from an American company. Every time they wanted to use the helicopters, they had to ask the government, who would then call up the US embassy, or who would tell the pilots, who would call up the US embassy to see if they were allowed to do it. And the answer was usually no. So these poor guys were tabbing all over the jungle for miles and miles, and weren't as successful as they could have been as a result. So that's, if it's vehicle combat, it's more likely to be, a technical. The old Toyota Hilux with a Barrett Light 50 strapped on the back, something like that.
If you're roaming around on the Horn of Africa, like anything bigger than that is going to be like a T-54 or T-55, and you can pot it with an RPG-7 and be home in time to have a cookout with the rest of the team.
Well, you can, but also these low level conflicts, they tend not to have a lot of that high tech stuff because the high tech stuff takes a lot of time, effort, and money to maintain as well. Like I was reading a thing about people rebuilding the Afghan Air Force, and they'd replaced all the old Russian helicopters with new American ones, and they were running into problems because they didn't have the manuals in Pashtun,
Mm-hmm.
and anyway, the guys couldn't read and write. Now, the old Russian helicopters, they didn't need manuals. They just got shown how to do it. They didn't have to read and write. They just got shown how to do it, and they could maintain them.
Well,
But the new American ones, they needed basically like a university degree to maintain the damn thing. And these guys couldn't read and write, and it wouldn't go as high and couldn't carry as much cargo. So it's completely inappropriate for those guys. And like you watch 5 minutes after we withdraw from Afghanistan, those things will just be left to rot.
Yeah.
They won't be used anymore.
Well, they do have some MiL-17 hips, and the Iraqi Air Force very slightly similar situation, a little bit more education in that thing. But the Iraqis have brand new Mi-24, which is a pretty fearsome beast in its own right when used properly. And the reason they have them is because when the Poles, who are now NATO, deployed to both nations, they said, "Well, we want Blackhawks and Apaches and shit like that." So when the Poles pulled out of both countries, they just left the helicopters there and said, "Here, you guys need more helicopters? Here," and went home and got
and
smells.
And that's what you get in low level. That's what you get in these low level conflicts. You get relatively simple, low maintenance gear. You don't get so much of the Gucci stuff. You're not going to be flying the latest stealth fighter jet or driving an Abrams tank or whatever. You don't get a lot of that. That's because they don't have the money, the personnel and the expertise to be able to handle that, or they don't have enough.
Right.
And for the same amount of time, effort, and money, for one Abrams tank, they could have 10 T-54s or something. And when they're just dealing with guys with AK-47s, that's plenty, So
I mean, and I've brought this up before, like, for some damn reason, just because people are people, and I won't dwell on this too much because, hey, we're not here to talk about Twilight 2000, but there is a collector. Now, he passed away and most of his collection was sold off, but while he was alive, one of the founders of Oracle Software had a gargantuan fleet. I mean, he literally had an armored brigade, just in terms of sheer numbers, of repaired and completely operational tanks going all the way back to the beginning of the Second World War to the mid-1990s. I think the only thing he didn't have was an Abrams. And to date, there is only one Abrams in a museum. The U.S. military, the Pentagon, has only given one Abrams to a private museum. But so this guy had this massive collection, and so we used to wax poetic and wishful on Twilight 2000 forums about, a tank is a tank. The U.S. military would definitely, they'd be like, hey, look, we need this. We've got Mexican and Russian combined forces coming up the West Coast. The U.S. is in ruins. We need this. And then there'd be naysayers who would say, oh, no, a Sherman would be useless. That's silly. Why would... And I'm thinking to myself, if I have a Sherman and you don't have a tank, I have the best tank on the battlefield.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's 70 years old. It's the best tank on the battlefield. A 75 millimeter high explosive round is going to kill you just as dead today as it did in 1944.
Yeah. So that's why the vehicle combat rules are not a huge priority for us at the moment. We're more into the personal combat ones because that's more likely the situation, given that, as I said, players need chaos, they need autonomy, which means post-military service or special forces teams, that sort of thing, which means not much resources available to them.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, I hope people can see how that follows logically. And the other aspect is that a lot of games fall down a bit on vehicle combat. It's the same like starship combat and that sort of thing. It's because it leads to a TPK.
Yeah.
So if you have personal combat, somebody dies, the rest of the party withdraws. Okay, the party goes on. If all four of you are in a tank and the heat round comes in, okay, we have a new campaign now.
Yeah, I think
You know,
even
so
Mark Miller realized that. Like everybody, like if you're in a tank and it suffers a catastrophic hit in T2K, everybody gets a saving throw. I think fairly early on they were losing playtesters who were like, "Yeah, we rolled up an Abrams tank for our starting vehicle. That's great." An AT5 team prangs you. You're all dead. you know.
one roll.
Yeah.
Most players are unhappy when just one roll kills just their character, but I think almost every player would be unhappy when one roll kills the entire party.
Yes. So speaking of
Vehicle combat can be a bit rocks fall, you die.
yeah,
So,
it really can. So speaking of rocks falling and everybody dying, what are we going to do next week, Kyle?
oh, I
Dare
don't
you
know.
re-enter the caves of chaos?
Yeah, why not? We're
All
into the
right.
caves of chaos.
So
I
next
have to go
week,
back to town to read the Vicky.
yes, next week with Kobold indentured servants in tow, uh, Sir Adequate and Company will be returning to the keep on the Borderlands to restock, heal up, rest up, and plot their new strategies. But until that time, I'm going to wish everyone an absolutely wonderful evening. Thank you, everyone who popped in. Uh, Alois Alwa, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Dawdle, thank you for your recommend. I will check out StreamYard. Maybe that won't throw up on itself like Discord tends to do. Thank you, everyone, for watching the stream tonight. Download Conflict. The link is in the chat. I'm going to link it in the comments because the chat won't replay. So, and Kyle, you're welcome to spam it wherever the hell you want in any of our comments.
I already have been.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. So get yourself a copy of Conflict and start playing this with your group. It is a fun, fantastic, and thought-provoking RPG, dare I say. So, we wish you all a good evening and namaste. Peace. Take care of yourselves, everyone.